this song for you.
You're listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I will do one episode for each song the band recorded in the studio. However, this is a fan podcast and not band endorsed. It's more of a tribute to their long history, well beyond just the hits, and my way of giving something back to a band that has given so much to me. Let's dig in! Hello and welcome to Season 7, Episode 1 of Machine Head. Today we're talking about Highway Star on Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and this is a pretty legendary album as it goes. I would imagine of all the shows that I've done so far, this is the one that people will probably know the most, at least this season anyway. This is, as far as I know, the only album that Deep Purple did a tour of and played exclusively a set, doing all the songs from this album on top of their regular set. And really enjoyed that tour. Actually, I saw that in Phoenix. I remember it was an indoor theater, Dodge Theater, I think it might have been. Anyway, great album. Very, very historic, obviously, because it has really a couple of their most iconic songs. I remember in an interview, John Lord said somebody had asked him what the most lucrative song of theirs had been up to, whatever year that was. I think it was around the Bananas tour. And he said that Smoke on the Water might be the most popular, but it was not the most lucrative or most successful. I can't remember the way he phrased it, giving me the idea that maybe that had not made them the most money, even though it's most popular. So honestly, a song could be in a film and pay out huge dividends for being in a film or a television show. There's other songs that get plenty of airplay. I mean, Highway Star, Child in Time was featured in the movie Twister. So, I mean, I can't imagine that the royalties that would have been paid for Twister for that one song, when that was just kind of a side song, in one of the scenes. I forgot to mention it in that episode, but I think it was in Dusty's van, but they were showing footage from like California Jam, so it didn't make any sense if you knew the history a little bit. But anyway, it could be licensing, it could be compilation albums, it could be best ofs, it could be featured on artist compilation, all kinds of different things. It could be Hush. I honestly don't know what the answer is, but I do know that Smoke in the Water is obviously one of the most popular songs of theirs. When I worked at the music stores in Colorado Springs and the rest of the chain up in Denver and Westminster, Colorado, I could tell you that it was ridiculous, the number of times I heard people, young guitarists, and it's great and it's an iconic song. It's a very simple riff, but would come in and play Smoke in the Water. Also heard Iron Man a lot, because Iron Man by Black Sabbath is a very simple, good, easy song to learn in the beginning of your guitar playing career. But today we're talking about Highway Star. And before I get into that, I want to take just a moment, because I didn't do it yesterday. I want to take a moment or did I? I don't remember. I actually recorded that a week ago. But anyway, why not? What the hell? These people are great. They're supporting the show, and I really appreciate it. On the Patreon, at the $5 Money Talks tier. And why did I pick that? Because it's the name of a Deep Purple song. We're talking about people donating money to the show for my time and effort, which I greatly appreciate. And I have 3 wonderful patrons now. I've got William Rose, Corey Morissette, and Nate. Thank you guys very, very much. I can't, it may seem like a simple thing, or, something like, yes, I mentioned it every week on the podcast, but you know what, really, and I said this on the Uriah Heep podcast for my patrons there, it really does mean a lot to me that I'm doing something that inspires people to want to support it, just beyond the listens and the likes. I mean, those are important too, don't get me wrong. I'm grateful for each and every one of those. That really helps get the word out to other people who may enjoy it, and I really love that. So as of today, as I'm recording this, and there's a reason I'm recording this one today, all of the Fireball episodes have been recorded except for one, which I'm recording next week with one of my co-hosts. All the other ones are already done, mixed, filtered, uploaded, and all that good stuff. But I was playing around with my settings a little bit, and I think I may be able to simplify my post-production process a little bit. And typically what happens is once I have verified the recording, then I will delete all the, extraneous files that I just don't need anymore. Once I've got the master and I've got it uploaded, then I go back and delete like all the editing files and stuff. But I was playing, so I don't have one to work with. And I was playing around with these settings and I thought, you know what? I bet I can eliminate one of the extraneous processes doing the podcast, one that takes a while. And it's kind of an extra step because I have to go outside of my main program to do it. And I thought, well, I really want to play around with that a little bit. And I thought, well, the only way I'm going to do that is to have something to play with. Well, why don't I record the next episode of Deep Purple Smoke on the podcast? Makes perfect sense, right? So this may or may not sound a little bit different than the rest of the podcast. We'll see what ends up actually airing, but I'm going to be very curious to see, all the EQs in those filters and everything are going to stay the same. It's basically the finalizing the volume, the master volume for broadcast audio is what I'm playing with. I'm going to see if I can eliminate Levelator from my process and do everything in iZotope's RX4. We'll see. Anyway, for you technical guys, that might be of interest. For you podcast folks, that might be of interest. And for everybody else, you're wondering why the hell I'm not talking about Highway Star. Well, let's do that. Highway Star is a little bit of an interesting tale, being such an iconic song. And it kind of makes sense, the subject matter, when you think about it. We have a reporter who is with Deep Purple on their tour bus doing an interview from point A to concert point B. And he says, well, how do you guys go about writing a song? And Richie, being the ever cheeky guy that he is, grabs his guitar and goes, well, like this. And he starts going and develops the main opening riff. Apparently they worked on it a little bit in the bus and did some sort of version of it that night in the show, which is pretty amazing. Obviously the song had a ways to go because there are, planned solo parts, which is not normal for Richie, but you can hear them in the overdubs and that. John Lord did this Bach-esque part in his solo that we're going to hear. So, yes, it was far from the final version. I'm sure it was probably just a little bit of a sketch, and I don't know how far along the lyrics were at that point. But it would be interesting if that were documented anywhere. I don't know what the date of that show was, but boy, if there was a live performance, I would love to hear. One of them would certainly be when they first premiered some intro version of Highway Star. But this song is iconic for so many reasons. It's got some really wonderful parts in it. I'm just going to give you a little bit of my take on Machine Head before we get into the song, because people talk about how heavy this album is. And to a certain extent, I get there. And what we're going to be listening to is, just like we did with Fireball, we're going to be listening to the Roger Glover remix version of these songs, including When a Blind Man Cries. But I have to say, and I haven't listened to this in a while, so I could be off base. But in general, I've always thought Fireball sounded like a heavier album. There's just some, to me, mellow overtone on this album that keeps it from really sounding heavy. Now, when you get to Made in Japan and you hear a lot of these songs, because a good chunk of Made in Japan's material comes from Machine Head, but I don't know. It sounds good. Don't get me wrong. The music and everything is there. The playing is there. The aggression's there where it needs to be. But there's just something about the tone of the album that feels like there's just this sheen over it that gives it kind of a little bit mellower of a sound than you would expect a hard rock album to sound in 1972, especially one that's iconic for being such a hard and heavy hard rock album. So I don't know, think what you will. That's kind of my take on it. And I think you can kind of hear that. If I remember, I'll point it out. But when we get to Richie's guitar solo, I think you can kind of hear that mellow tone in, especially when you compare it to songs like No, No, No or Fireball. But again, we were listening to the Roger Glover remix when we were doing the show. So we're going to listen to Roger's remix here. And I may have a different opinion on it, but listening to like the original album mix, that's kind of where I come off. So anyway, we'll see where I stand on all of that when we get there. Let's get into it. Here it is, Highway Star. Now, I have to say, I think Roger has done an amazing job with the treatment on this song. Before we get into the specifics of it, as I mentioned before, I've always felt that Machine Head has like a little bit of a sheen over it that kept it from sounding really heavy, just like this mellow blanket, but Roger's removed that here. We're getting more clean, crisp sound. It's heavier, it's punchier, it's got more bottom end and thickness to it. Martin Birch was a fantastic engineer, and based on the equipment and the knowledge and everything at the time, and remember, hard rock was only around really for a couple of years, so it's not like they had really perfected all the mixing techniques and all that, although I will say Fireball did sound like a heavier album to me. So did In Rock, for example. But in any case, Roger has done an excellent job with this remix. We're really getting some good sound here, some nice clean heaviness, and that's what this song really needs. Interesting, though, to start the song, we've got this just gentle taps, quarter notes from Ian Pace on the snare. It's not really ballsy. It's not really heavy, what you would expect to start a rock album with, but it gets there very quickly. Then we've got Richie just doing that just quick picking, which I really like. It's not something you hear from him a lot, unless it's kind of buried in a rhythm track, but this is really nice to just hear that out front. John Lord's organ, very strong here. And then Roger, again, really beefy, heavy bass sound. And of course, he remixed this, but really beefy, heavy bass sound. Then he jumps the octave and goes up higher. Then he does that little run that settles himself back in. And I really like that because it's like almost like everybody's taking the stage and just kind of doing a little warm up, and then they're jumping into the song. And I really love that feel about it. Now, of course, live, this is typically their opener. And what I like about that is it gives them a chance to kind of warm into playing for the crowd, playing the opening of the show, kind of settling the nerves a little bit. And I think it's just a great kick-ass rock tune to open with. Yeah, this is sounding amazing. I'm absolutely loving this. I love the off time of John's organ and how heavy it sounds against the guitar. You got that nice steady pulse going from everyone else in the band, and it's just really strong. It's a build that's not even building because it's not changing, it's not progressing, it's just playing forward, but it's giving you the intensity that it's getting towards something. And I love how you can create that without it actually being a build. There's a DVD out there where Roger was remixing Machine Head, and he goes through all the songs. He pulls them up on the mixer. You got some interviews with John Lord. They talk a little bit about this song, and with the vocals here, Roger said that this was really the only bit of studio trickery, obviously duplicating and moving the track. He didn't sing that over and over and over again, and it wasn't a delay. It sounds like they did some kind of thing where they must have put it on another tape and then just burned it into this one in those different spots. So it sounds like he was singing it multiple times, but wasn't. That's my interpretation of what he was talking about there, because it does sound exactly the same. And not that Ian couldn't sing it, but why? I mean, why would you do that? Why put your voice through that when you really don't need to? Not sure what else he could have been talking about, but very interesting though, that was that. There's also another bit that I guess you could call trickery that's coming up later that we'll talk about, but I really think it was just smart recording technique. We'll get there. Do not worry, we will get there. For now, let's get into the song because it's really kicking in now. putting this at the beginning of the album just says, you know what, we're serious. We are a hard driving band and we're going to blow your ears away. What else could you get from an opening like this? I mean, Ian Gillan in full force, really powerful notes. Ian Pace on fire, doing some really killer fills throughout the song that, you know, we'll hear as we go on. Richie, Roger, John, just solid, creating such a base for the vocals to come through. It's just amazing on every level. And then the get together point, that point where, you know, you guys all kind of go off and do what you're going to do. And then we're going to come back on this, just two notes, just da, da, very simple. It doesn't need to be, you know, some kind of major pattern or anything. Just, all right, we're all going to regroup right here on the 3 and 4, and then we'll start the next one on the 1. Very simple. I absolutely love that. I will say, on a side note, while I was never a huge karaoke person, I used to go with my brother a lot, but I was never really that big on singing, to be honest. But I always did enjoy doing this song, and on those nights where I could really nail that opening note and just get that balance between the notes of the verse and then the I love it's hitting that, you know, real powerful sound. Those were magical, and I really always enjoyed singing this song, probably more than any other. Hush was a lot of fun too, because it's just a fun song and people really get into it. But yeah, this one was kind of like, if I felt like I was in good voice and I could pull off a good version of this, or at least a decent version, not saying I'm anywhere close to Ian Gillan here. It was fun. It was definitely worth doing.
Nobody gonna take my girl, gonna keep her to the end. Nobody gonna have my girl, she stays close on everywhere. Oh, she's a killer machine, she got everything. Like a moving mouth, body control and everything.
In case you missed it, rewind that just a few seconds. Go back and listen to that last part again and listen to what Roger Glover's playing on bass here. Again, so colorful, so innovative, and just energetic up and down the fretboard in ways that just paint such a depth to the song that you don't get when you're playing the root notes. And since we're not getting really any of those additional fill-ins that we would normally get from Richie, John Lord's playing very straightforward here. We're really getting them from Roger, and Ian Pace is adding some color too with the fills. But I love that. I love that it's different people on different songs. It's a combination of people, and it just, you never know who's going to bring that little sauce that just enhances the flavor of the music that much more.
I need her, I see her. Yeah, she turns me on, all right, all the time. I'm a highway star.
I've always loved that drum fill. It's just so full of energy, so transitional. I mean, it's great to say, here's what we've been doing up to this point. We're heading into something different. We need to take a bar and just change the direction a little bit. We're going to keep the pulse and the tempo the same, but we're going to go into something different now from these verses. And I think that's such a great, epic transitional fill. Okay, before we really get into John's solo here, and this is the part where he was talking about a little bit of trickery as well. When he gets into the really melodic Bach-esque playing here, he actually did that. He said that was a little bit of trickery, and I don't know if that meant he recorded it on 2 separate takes, or if it was just the way that he played it, because he plays it in the video, and it sounds fantastic the way he's doing it, exactly like it was on the record while he's playing it in 1 take. So I'm not sure exactly what he meant there, but I don't think there's anything, you know, even if he did it on 2 separate tracks just for clarity or for mixing purposes, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because he could play it live. And that's the point. When you're doing it in the studio, you're recording for the quality of the recording purpose. And when you're playing it live, you're playing it for the song. So there's a little bit of a difference if you want to separate tracks so that you have more mixing choices, or, just to maybe pan it differently or whatever. I don't think there's anything really wrong with that, because it's not like he couldn't play what it would eventually be on the record and what he would play live. So I don't really think that there was anything weird or sort of trickery about that. But listen to what's happening here. I mean, in the left channel, we've got Richie with some really clean muted picking here. I mean, absolutely fantastic. I love how just clean and miraculous that sounds. And then, we've got in more like center left, we've got Jon Lord kind of gearing up, almost like that air conditioner at the beginning of Fireball, just kind of gearing up that engine, revving up to hit the racetrack. A little bit of panning again, more, towards the center at the end of that, again with the panning. But, it's something that they included. And then, obviously now we're going to get into it. So everybody's going to kind of lay back a little bit and just give room for the solo, which, this is one of the more classic Jon Lord ones. I know that this solo was very well planned out. Actually, I think Richie's was too, if I remember right. They had like the basic song down, and then I think John said in an interview that they kind of like went back and refined what they were going to do, because there is a little bit of consistency to it, some overdubbing and things. That it kind of makes sense that these were written solos, although it's pretty rare for Richie to do that. Anyway, let's get back to it. I mean, is that just incredible or what? I mean, I have to wonder if there wasn't some element of John's classical upbringing that came out in that. I mean, it had to be, right? Definitely feels very Bach-esque, I would say, but absolutely beautiful. One of my favorite pieces from Jon Lord. Another one is in Burn. We'll get to that one really in just a couple of albums, which is kind of weird to think that we're not too far away from a massive change in the band. But for this, like, I've listened to this so many times and just gone back over it and just really relished in how beautifully smooth it's played. It just kind of rolls off the fingers, and as powerful as it is, it's also just beautiful. And I can't appreciate that part enough. And then again, like, we've got another regrouping point, very simple, very similar to the first one. And which was just da da, and now we've got da da da. So they're just adding a little bit to it, but it's a nice regrouping point, a nice point for them to reset and transition to the next thing. The other thing I really have to appreciate here is how everyone else just kind of laid back and just kept the foundation so that John could play over that. Nobody was trying to outshine him or distract him. We had a little fill from Ian Pace and a couple extra bass drums in there, but really just as part of the process. I don't think there was anything trying to draw attention away from John there. In fact, I think it would have been weird if it was just straight rhythm through all of that. But there were like no major trills or add-ins or distractions or anything. It was pretty much just, hey, we're just gonna keep the foundation, go do your thing. Nice slight swell from John at the end there, but I love how it goes from this incredibly intense keyboard part to now we're just doing something very simple. And again, no fill-ins, just basically like, here's a little change, here's a little bit of something as we transition you back into the next verse coming out of this major solo. And I love the simplicity of it. I also like how just John revving up at the end of that there was really nice in the background. And then at the very tail of it, just another, swing down the keyboard. Very cool. John's so good at throwing those in. But this song has never lost momentum, never lost power. I love coming out of the intense part from John. He just goes right back to that straight playing again with a really heavy organ sound. I mean, this is just killer writing, killer performances, and this is why this song is so popular.
Nobody gonna take my hand. I got speed inside my brain. Nobody gonna steal my hand now that I'm on the road again. Oh, I'm having again. I got an everything like a moving crowd. I'm up on the road and everything. I love it. I need it. I need it. Ain't selling it's all mine. All right, hold tight. I'm a highway star.
Another fantastic extended transitional drum fill here as we're about to hear from Richie, and it's his turn to take the solo wheel. But again, coming off such a powerful vocal performance from Ian, absolutely in top form here, and such a joy to listen to this song. Such a beautiful solo, and obviously, so much double tracking to make that sound the way it is. But what's interesting to me is that where we had John in the right ear before, now Richie has transitioned to the right ear for the solo where he was in the left ear before doing the rhythm track. So I find that interesting because I was kind of expecting the guitar would be on the left-hand side. Never really thought about it, actually, until again, hearing different things as I'm doing a different type of listen to this song for the first time. And I'm really glad again that I'm doing it. But yeah, there's one guitar track that seems to be panned just about center, maybe slightly to the right. The solo's a little more to the right. And then I think there's a third track maybe that's somewhere in between. It's kind of hard to differentiate a little bit of it, but the playing is so clean and so precise that it blends together really, really well. I'm not really picking out a lot of places where I could say, oh, he played this one slightly faster or slightly slower. I mean, his performance is really tight here on all the tracks. Fantastic work from Richie. And again, such an iconic solo. I don't know much about the different modes, like Mixolydian and that sort of thing, but I've read several times that this solo is in multiple modes, and that's pretty interesting. I tend to think that Richie may not really think about it in those terms. I think he just plays what he feels, or what he comes up with through jamming or just, sitting down and working through it. I don't know that he specifically sat down and said, okay, these 8 measures are going to be in this mode, and then I'm going to switch it over to here, because it all works with what's going on behind him. Now, because the rhythm behind him is simple, it gives him a lot of options, a lot of places he can go. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that he thought about things in that manner. I've never heard him talk about that. I think it's just a matter of this is just what he felt and came up with, and then just built it up from there. Just my opinion, though. There's been no interview or documentation I've heard from Richie on that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because what we're left with is a fantastic solo, and very iconic one as well.
Nobody gonna take my car. I'm gonna race it
course, we come back to that same connection point again, coming out of Richie's solo right before the last verse starts. And again, just so simple. It doesn't need to be grandiose. It doesn't need to be some kind of crazy melodic thing in every song. And I like that they recognize that. I like that they give us a variety of options during the different songs. It's part of what I've always considered the magic of Deep Purple's music to be. And, final vocal verse here from Ian is just as great as all the other ones. It's so powerful. And then, again, Roger coming through with some really great playing at the end of the line here as we get into the I love it, I need it part. God, just magic. And then everybody's just firing, no pun intended, but on all 8 cylinders, because this last verse is it. And as usual, they ramp up the last verse a little bit and just give us that much more. John is just rocking out on the keyboard here, and Roger giving us the flourishes, Ian Pace giving us some great drum fills. Absolute rock and roll magic, this song.
Yeah, it's a man hurricane. All right, hold tight. I'm a highway star. I'm a highway star. I'm a
I don't know exactly how fast a well-seasoned bass player can pick a bass string, but I would say that was a masterclass, what we just heard from Roger there. Absolutely fantastic ending to the song. I think he kind of got as close as he would get to a solo in this song at the end, got to shine through a little bit. Band just solid through the whole thing. Love the ending. Love that. Almost like somebody took a huge aluminum sheet and just smashed it with a hammer at the very end of it. Love that sound. Just killer from start to finish. The song never slowed down, never stopped pounding. Never, even in that section coming out of John's solo, going into that little breakdown that we got there, didn't really slow the tempo down. It didn't take me out of the song or out of tapping my foot or, lose me in any way. And I like that. It was very short, but I never really felt like we were off of that pulse. And the song just pushes the whole time. Very popular song on pretty much every live version that I've ever heard. Of course, the way that David Coverdale sang it, slightly different and a little more David Coverdale-ish. You can hear that on Made in Europe. And I want to say maybe Live in London. I don't remember. But there's definitely a couple of really good versions of David Coverdale singing the song. But this is very much an Ian Gillan song, very much in his wheelhouse with those changes in pitch. Not that David couldn't hit him, because he certainly could, but he sang it, a little bit differently. But yeah, fantastic, just top-notch performance from absolutely everyone. The solos were amazing. The rhythms fantastic. The drum fills were incredible. The vocals top-notch. I mean, there isn't anything more I could possibly want for in this song. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed Highway Star. I don't know if you're a fan of rock and roll. I would be curious if you, other than possibly, overkill, hearing it too much or something like that, if there's a reason you don't like this song, I would love to know what it is, because this to me is just a flawless piece of rock and roll. And I can't imagine someone not liking it, not just getting into that pulse and feeling it thump your chest and making you want to tap your foot, or however you typically react to music. Being a drummer, something percussive is more my go-to. But great song, great start to this season. We'll see you guys on the next episode as we continue our journey through Machine Head. Probably, I would say one of the most well-known Deep Purple albums. It seems to be the one that when I talk to most Deep Purple people or have conversations with people about Deep Purple, it seems like more people say, oh yeah, I had a copy of Machine Head, the first one I got was Machine Head more than I hear any other album, except for like Perfect Strangers, for those people that didn't really find them until the 80s, which was a completely different time in the band. But so this is, I would probably say, the most well-known, at least of the older albums. Obviously, they're doing very well, charting in the top of the charts around the world these days. So great to see that they're still getting a lot of recognition for their music, because I think they're absolutely on fire now, just as much as they were in 1972. So anyway, we'll see you guys on the next one for the next song. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast, a tour of the entire Deep Purple studio recordings. Please remember to give the show a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Leave a comment and tell your friends. I also have a Patreon set up if you'd like to support the show. You can also write to me at smokeonthepodcast@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and thanks for listening.